G'day folks, Jason here on the Udder Farm. I'm actually on the trial property this afternoon, guys. Topic of discussion today is I got a question on Facebook, and it's quite an interesting question. I didn't even think about it actually. It was, how come I slash out on the Udder Farm but I never show slashing videos here on the trial property? So I guess I haven't covered it, I haven't thought about it, but the reason is, we'll jump in the paddock and I'll do a comparison of the two. Now before I jump in the paddock, guys, I want to show you something. That grass there, I had to whippersnip that off because that was almost touching my 42-inch hot wire. So I whippersnip that off, otherwise it's going to short out my hot wire. That there remaining would be about 1.5 feet. So if we step over the paddock without touching a hot wire which is on, check out this pasture. The girls will be coming in here tomorrow, so they moved them in there. That's going to be a 12-hour stint in there because it's really thick, and that's only the second graze since winter, so it's really long. I want them chewing right down to that 40% in readiness for the spring flush and the spring rains. See, if you have a look here, guys, that is thick pasture. Thick, like hairs on a dog's back. That is really thick. When I first started the regenerative farming 4 years ago, prior to that I used to slash all these paddocks every year. This was being continually grazed, and this was like the surface out on the Udder Farm. It was shorter than a bowling green. Overgrazed, surface continually hot, and no grass because it's continually grazed. Since I've gone down the regenerative farming route, it's no longer continually grazed, it's only let go a foot. They chew it down, that 40%, leaving 60%. The manure cycle then goes back in, the microbes do their bit, the worms aerate the soil, take the manure down, and it thickens the pasture, adds that nutrient cycle back, so you've got healthier soil, healthier grass, and it starts to really show. This used to be, like I said, this was really thin like the Udder Farm. Now the reason I'm not slashing is I've got that foot of armour. The sun can't penetrate through this foot of growth that's left. And if you have a look through in areas, guys, straight through there, that dead thatch, I open that up, there's more thatch, dig down through that, and there's the soil there. So I've probably got 3 layers where it's been laid over 3 times in a year of decaying grass, and that fresh topsoil on the bottom, which is 2 or 3 years worth of topsoil. So I don't need to slash this, guys. The height of the 2/3 of the plant left, it's got 1 inch of thatch protecting that soil. There is a bit of dead residue you'll see through there, but that's beneficial to me. When the summer rains come now, this is going to really take off because that armour on the soil is going to hold the moisture in, and this is really going to get thick, lush and green. Had I have slashed and put more armour on the ground, which is not warranted because the cows are going to lay it over anyway when it gets high, but just say I did slash, this would come back that green that I would have to roll out hay or feed these animals hay or fodder during summer, because the grass would be that green, it would be that high in protein, they would have diarrhea, they would have loose bowel movements. But leaving this now with this dead residue amongst the green residue, in summer when they take a mouthful, they're getting the fibre from that dead residue. They're getting green and they're getting dry clippings. So I won't need to roll out hay. I don't need to roll out hay on this property anymore because I'm walking through it. It's thick, lush, there's armour there. It's probably lacking diversity. I could broadcast some seeds in and let the animal impact push those seeds into the ground, but I don't need the extra armour now. This grass will be 1 metre high come summer and they'll lay it over for me. So I'm out here on the Udder Farm now. Let's compare the ground here to what we just seen back on the trial property. So let's jump straight to it. The reason I slash out here is, if you have a close look, guys, bare dirt, there is no area of thatch or armour on this ground at all. So that's a really thin area. I've rolled out hay across this area once and fed bale graze this area, because when I first bought the property, this was an area of bare dirt and clay. You can see the patches of here of rhodes grass coming through the thickened areas. That's just cooch, and this is a rhodes grass. Patches are where the seeds come through. Even in those places, if I go through where I slashed, go down to the ground, I've slashed here probably 3 times in the last 2 years. See, there's no residue at all. There's a bit of dead matter, but there's no height or thickness to it. There's a bare dirt right there. That's bare dirt. You know, they wouldn't even call that clippings. There's nothing there I can pick up. There's nothing of substance. And this is why I have to slash here on the udder farm. So I've got no choice here on the udder farm but to slash. As I showed you, there's no organic matter on the ground to protect the soil in summer, or even to hold the moisture in when it rains. The sun will penetrate the grass, directly hitting the dirt, and dry out that ground. So what I'm doing by slashing here is artificially laying down, making that thatch from the clippings. That's why I bought the wood slasher, to evenly distribute the grass on the ground. I will never ever get thatch laid down on this property until I start cell grazing. They're continuously grazing at the moment because I haven't got the watering system in, or the fencing incorporated, the timeless fencing in place to allow me to cell graze. So we've had a lot of rain here. I've had it lined up to get put in, but 6 months worth of flooding, I'm unable to get the tractor on the ground. So that's delaying me a bit, but until such time, when they're continually grazed, they will go around and pick sporadically the grass. You haven't got the animal impact when you really put them into a high density area where it's a competition. They walk around and their hooves are laying the grass down. They're eating as much as they can. They eat more weeds than they generally would because they don't know when they're getting moved on. So it becomes a competition. They generally eat a lot more of the woody weeds they wouldn't eat, and they lay a lot more carbon. So that is what's happening on the trial property there. The cattle are laying that thatch down for me, laying the grass over, building the litter bank, armouring the soil, which then when it breaks down, it's giving me new fresh topsoil. Whereas here, it's relying on the slasher only to make that organic matter. And if I don't start doing it now with the slasher, I'm going to have no matter on the ground at all. Which then come summer, the hotter weather is going to dry it out. So with slashing just before spring hits, I haven't got any of that dry matter on the ground. So when it does rain in spring and summer, it instantly goes to a green flush. And a couple of months into it, you'll notice the loose movements of the cattle because it's so green and they're not getting that mouthful of dry matter for their fibre and the green clippings for the protein. Here, it's just all protein. So that gives them loose bowel movements. Hence why I've got the hay here. So I generally have to feed hay on this property in summer because it's that green, unlike the other farm where I've still got that dry matter adding that fibre, that roughage into their diet. But that doesn't matter because, like I said, I've still got really bad areas here of thin grass. So by rolling out the hay, I'm getting the added benefits of those seeds going on the ground to thicken up my pasture. So that's the answer. Why I slash on the udder farm and I don't slash on the trial property. I hope you guys get some benefit out of this. I've got a bit of slashing to do now. I've only got 4 more weeks before spring hits, so going to be busy times. So have a great morning, a terrific afternoon, and an awesome evening, guys, wherever you're watching this from, and we'll catch you later.